Tensions rise between Bloodlines and Illuminati as final showdown looms for U.S. corporate government. Global tensions are rising visibly as the petrodollar fund U.S. corporate government face a January 18 start of gold-backed yuan-denominated oil trading, even while its still unfunded January 31st payment deadline looms. One sign of this extreme tension came last week when a missile from a cable submarine was stopped from hitting Hawaii and the submarine was sunk, Pentagon sources say. Media outlets around the world have reported that Hawaiian residents all received the following warning on their mobile phones. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. But later, this was reported to be a false alarm. It was not. It was an attempt by the cable to blame the attack on North Korea and use this as a trigger for the long-desired World War III, CIA sources say. The attack was followed by an increase in earthquakes and volcanic activity, which may be an attack on the potential submarine bases in Chile, Peru, Papua New Guinea, or underwater, the Pentagon sources continued. U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency official Paul Lane was previously told this writer that numerous underwater bases exist. These bases now appear to be under systematic attack. Meanwhile, as this report was being written, a person claiming to be His Excellency's His Royal Highness Ernest Rothschild, Royal Prime Minister of the United States of North America, contacted this writer to claim the federal USA comes under the USA. He went on to state that the Galactics were now arriving to enforce his claim. He provided extensive documentations to back his claim, to which we have linked below, without a comment other than to note that the address provided is just a virtual office in Washington, D.C. In any case, Galactics and underwater bases aside, there is plenty happening in the visible here and now to your political spirit. Last week, this was especially evident in the tension between the U.S. military government, represented by Donald Trump, and much of the rest of the world. Pentagon sources say the war against cable soldier MS-13 escalates as Trump arrests MS-13 leaders in the northeast United States and temporary protective status of 200,000 surveillance and may do the same for 60,000 Honduras. In addition, Trump seized all classified incriminating documents from the Obama presidential library to help the Department of Justice take down the entire Obama regime, the sources continued. After the Saudi and U.S. purge, the EU purge begins with the death of globalist former EU commissioners and Goldman Sachs chairman Peter Sutherland. They continue. The source also say that Trump is subling shithole London as he goes to Davos for a victory lap. However, it is clear that any victory lap would be highly premature. Both CIA sources in Asia as well as Rothschild family sources in the US say that in March is the beginning of the great financial unwind. The CIA sources explain as follows. The Dow Jones will most likely reach 30,000 by mid-March. This is the number needed to have totally drained all of the remaining liquid excess of the people. An event will occur, the plunge will be pulled, and the collapse will be put in motion. This will be a ripple that turns into a global tsunami. This is their current plan, the sources add. What comes after the plunge is pulled sometime in March is that the gold-backed currency in which Russia, China, India, and Indonesia are all involved together will come online. The CIA sources also pointed out that the Trump regime's investigation of the Clinton Foundations opens a very big can of worms globally, because though many foreign governments have donated to it, there can be no doubt that the Clinton Foundation was guilty for mass embezzlement, especially concerning Haiti. We were informed by the U.S. Defense Intelligence agencies at the time of the Haiti earthquake and tsunami that it was caused by nuclear weapons placed on seabed by a cable submarine. The ongoing FBI investigation of the Foundation will ultimately lead to this fact, and from there it will lead to a similar attack on Fukushima on March 11, 2011. However, to show how convoluted this all is, thoroughly documented evidence shows that the trail from Fukushima will lead to Pete through Freemason Lodge and the very people at Davos where Trump will be taking his victory lap. Also, a Pentagon source sent the following statement which we will convey to our readers verbatimly. The term shithole may soon be used for sanctuary cities like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, and countries like the UK, France, Germany, Sweden, and any white country that has been shitholed by blacks and Muslims, and then on to Israel for its crime and terrorism. Furthermore, the source continued, Trump may censure the Queen and moderately bankrupt royals for promoting black-white race mixing to denote side and white race with the nuptials of bastard Harry and half-Negro Meghan Markle, while Andrew, who has been flying with Jeb Epstein to Lolita Island, may top the list of yield pedophiles. The statement no doubt reflects widespread views among many Europeans and European Americans. The source of guilt have festered in the background as a result of years of excessive political correctness that has stripped real debate about the connection between things like race, ethnicity, crime, and social achievement. For example, it is a fact that crime rates are far higher in certain neighborhoods populated almost exclusively by African Americans than in areas populated by European Americans. To pretend this is not true, or to blame it on the historical injustice, is not going to solve the problem. At the same time, blindly attacking Trump as being racist for referring to African shithole countries ignores the fact that Africa remains overwhelmingly poor and underdeveloped compared to the rest of the world. Furthermore, my African and African American friends have reported that there is as much or more racism against them in Asia as they have ever experienced in European countries, so it would be oversimplifying to label this problem as white supremacies. As Asian and Western countries negotiate a more inclusive world, the problem of Africa needs to be looked at honestly. Most likely, if the Africans were paid a fair price for their resources, they would, like the Saudis, experience extremely rapid development and modernization. In any case, to reopen this debate in a more constructive manner, I would like to use the example of tomatoes. There are mini tomatoes and giant tomatoes and orange-colored tomatoes, so clearly there are genetic differences. At the same time, if you take two genetically identical tomatoes and plant one in ideal condition of sunlight, fertilizer, and etc., you get a huge plant with hundreds of tomatoes on it. Take the same seed and put it in very poor conditions. You can get a stunt plant that produces a single tomato. So my view is that before people discuss genes and racism, they should make sure that each human on earth has an environment that allows them to flourish to the greatest extent possible. In England in the past, there were prostitutes who bore many children from various fathers. These bastards would grow up in impoverished circumstances and become part of a self-perpetuating underclass of criminals and whores. In England, this underclass was largely abolished through many measures such as workhouses, bans on prostitution, and etc. Perhaps Donald Trump, who avoided charges of racism, could ask hard-working middle-class African Americans to deal in a similar manner with the similar ghetto underclass that now is responsible for a disproportionate amount of crime in the U.S. We realize we have opened a can of worms here with these preliminary ramblings, but something putting a lid on controversial things will not lead to conclusion, and this sort of debate has been stripped for too long. In any case, getting back to the geopolitical situation, we can see our source in the US military government calling out to the UK, France, Germany, and Sweden as enemies. That makes us wonder exactly what friends they still have. The answer may be provided by the US closest friends and neighbor, Canada. Canada government has called a meeting of 12 or so countries in Vancouver this week to discuss North Korea. This includes England, the US, France, Germany, India, Thailand, South Korea, Japan, and other countries that fought against the North Korea, China, and Russia during the Korean War. Nonetheless, North Korea is just a cover country. The countries gathering are really talking about China and their imminent plans for a gold-backed currency to replace the Western US dollar, euro, and Japanese yen system. Canada, unlike the US, has been very successful in getting people from all around the world and all sorts of ethnic, cultural, racial backgrounds to live and work together successfully and in harmony. It may well be that the real discussion in Vancouver this week will be about who or what will replace the soon-to-be bankrupt, corrupt US government, and what their negotiation stance will be with China's and their allies.